going on, everybody? It's Wednesday. It's Q and A day. It is my favorite video day of the week. You guys continue to send in lots of questions, which is terrific. I love it when you send lots of questions. And there are 5 that I chose this week. There were more good ones than just 5. If I don't get to your question this week, please keep asking it. I will get to it. I promise that I will. But these 5 questions, I'm really excited to talk about. A couple of them, people have been asking me for a while. So I'm excited to finally share my thoughts on those topics in particular. Now, these Monday videos where I ask you questions and these Wednesday videos where you ask me questions really sum up for me what I want this YouTube channel and community to be about. It's about us discussing topics. It's about us sharing ideas and opinions. It's about comments below. It's about comments to comments. That's what people do who share hobbies, is we talk about stuff. See, when I did my video last Saturday on the 10 vintage basketball players that I think are worth targeting and collecting, and then people responded and said, you left off this guy, or you left off that guy. To me, that's great. It's just like sports talk radio, where people call in, give their opinion, and then people tell them why their opinion's right or wrong, and that's the discussion. If everybody had the same opinion, this wouldn't be that interesting. We all have different opinions. PSA, SGC, vintage, modern, whatever it is. So, what I want to do is take a look at our very first question this week. But before I do that, remember, down below, if you have a question you'd like to see me tackle in an upcoming episode, maybe even next week, just simply type your question into the comments below. I look forward to seeing what you all want to hear about, but let's look at our first question right now.
Now that getting cards autographed is the thing to do you think this fad will continue? If the market decides to flip and go back to it being taboo to have cards signed, what will that do to the autographed rookie card prices?
All right, here we go. This is really a follow-up question from last week. In fact, there were 2 questions last week about getting cards autographed. And one of the questions was from 3G Slabs. So I am happy to do a follow-up to make sure I fully answer the question in the way that it was intended, to make sure that I'm giving my opinion of what you're truly curious about. So, autographed cards. See, remember, I've been collecting cards for literally over 35 years. And when I was a kid, we were going to card shows as a kid in the late 80s, early 90s, late 90s. We were going to shows, and at that time, it was totally taboo to get a pristine, vintage rookie card signed. I literally remember in the next town over going to an outdoor show. It was under an overhang at like this, outdoor mall thing. And I remember going up to a table and looking, and this is in about 1989. And there was a Dwight Gooden card, rookie card, autographed. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they ruined that card and got it autographed. Because that was literally the belief at the time. And now here we are, where what everyone wants to pull out of a pack is an autographed card. What everyone wants to get is the rookie card signed. I do it myself, right? I've mailed off to Ryan Sandberg through the mail his rookie card to have him sign it. I mean, I've done that with Wade Boggs. I recently showed an Ozzie Smith rookie card that I bought that's signed. That's kind of the thing now. So the question is, what if it becomes not the thing again? Well, there's a couple things that I would respond with that. Number one, people want rare. People are always going to want what other people don't have, right? That's just, people want a house with a view. People want a house on a hill. People want a bigger house. People want a nicer house. We all want nice things, but it's cool to have something that there's not a lot of. So even though there does seem to be a frenzy of people getting cards autographed, I believe the supply of autographed cards is always going to be way less than the non-autographed cards. I mean, I went through some value boxes at a card show a couple weeks ago, and I had video of this. And in that video, I saw multiple Don Mattingly rookies, 84 Topps rookies. I saw multiple Ryan Sandberg Topps rookies at different tables, various tables. I mean, in that room, and I saw a bunch of Ozzie Smith rookies. I mean, I probably saw 10 of each of those cards in that one room at that one show. None of them were autographed. Now, yeah, it seems like people are starting to get those cards autographed. And so instead of there only being, a couple hundred of them, there might be a couple thousand of them. But there's still going to be so many more of the unautographed copies than the autographed copies. So I don't think there's going to come a time where there are going to be so many autographed that people are going to go, oh man, I wish we could find one that wasn't autographed. I don't think that's going to happen, because I think if you just look at the population reports of these cards, there are going to be so many forever. There are going to be so many more that are not autographed than autographed. Even if at every autograph signing that Ozzie Smith does for the rest of his life, he signs 100 of his rookie cards, which I don't think is going to happen. But even if he does that, I don't think that it will ever get anywhere close to the number that aren't autographed. And by the way, a lot of these guys are starting to catch on. Joe Montana, he charges like a couple $100 for his autograph, but if you have his rookie card autographed now, he charges like $1,000. Like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, if they sign their rookie card, the Magic Dr. J Bird rookie card, and one of the other two have already signed it, they charge more. Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, when he signed his rookie card, and it happened at the National, it was kind of a dispute, is the amount that they charged for his autograph depended on what the card was going to be worth after he signed it. It was like if the card was going to be worth a lot because it was his rookie card, they charged this amount. But if it was like his 10th card, they charged a different amount. As that's starting to happen, I don't think there's going to be this huge influx of autographed cards. And that's of the guys that are still living, right? The thing that there's really the demand for, the thing that I'm certain people are never going to go, I wish, is like, Mickey Mantle rookies signed, right? Hank Aaron rookies signed. Stan Musial, Brooks Robinson rookies signed. That we're not going to add to the supply ever again. So the ones that are out there are one of the only ones that will ever be out there. I don't think we're going to go back. I think that the autographed inserts into packs have become so mainstreamed that it's never going to go back. Now, are there purists who don't want cards autographed? Of course, 100%. But I think there will always be more people than there are autographed copies who want autographed copies. Name any card out there. I'd love to have an autographed copy, and I'd love to have an unautographed copy. So I think there will be more demand for the autographed copy because it's rarer. And it will always be rarer, even if these guys are signing rookie cards at a ferocious pace. That's just my take. But I'd be very curious to hear what everyone else thinks. I don't think we're going to go back to preferring cards that aren't autographed. There are always going to be some people who do prefer it unautographed, but I don't think the supply of the autographed versions is going to go up so much that there are going to be too many that are signed, and we're going to be searching for ones that aren't. I don't see that happening.
I've seen your videos of your card show as a buyer. I think you would be great on the other side of the table. Any ideas of setting up a table at a local card show sometime?
All right. Now, I like this question. I like it because it feels like the question is saying, I think you should do this. And that's a compliment, right? I'm like, oh, that's nice that you think that that's something that I should try. So let me just say a few things. First thing I'll say is, through and through, I'm a collector, but even collectors sell, right? My interests change. So there are cards that I need to liquidate because my interests are more over here than over here. Sometimes I'll upgrade my copy of a card. So maybe I have kind of a beat up off center 2 or a 3, and I get a good deal on a 5 that's well centered and looks great, and I prefer this one. Then I buy the better one, and maybe I need to liquidate the other one. So most of us, even the collectors like me, are always going to be selling some. And then, to be totally honest, there are only so many dollars in my account. So if I see a card at a good deal, I'll buy the card going, that's below market, knowing that I can make some money on the card, and then that helps me pay for my card habit. So some people like never sell. I don't really want to sell, but sometimes I sell out of necessity so I can afford things that I really want more than what I have. So I've mentioned before that I sell on eBay, right? I've mentioned before, I've had people email me for cards that they've seen in my videos, and I've sold cards directly to people. I've had, so I sell some on eBay. I sell some directly to people. I've done some sales through social media. And I think the thing that would be the most fun about setting up as a dealer is the opportunity to just meet people and hang out with people and see people and get to know other card collectors. But when I go to shows, I'm doing that. Like, I get to do that even when I'm not a dealer. So I was at a show this past week, and it was a very small show. The video is going to be coming out in the next, 2-3 days probably. And it was like a 50 table show, but I spent at least half of the time I was there talking with other collectors and friends that I saw and other dealers and other, meeting people that have seen the channel. And I get to do that whether I'm a dealer or not a dealer. But again, sometimes it's nice to liquidate. So it is something my dad and I have been talking about. We're like, yeah, let's set up at a table. But then you're like, I don't have cases, to set up, and I don't want to just put everything out on the table. So there's all that startup cost, but we're like, it could be fun. We'll just hang out all day at the card show and maybe sell a few things and see some people. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, we've definitely talked about it. And I have a video that's going to be coming out in about a week. And a lot of the thought process is, I've personally noticed a little bit of a decline over the last 6 months of attendance at card shows. And I go, well, is it because the weather has been nice over the last 6 months? So people are out doing things and kids are playing sports and stuff. Maybe. Is it because the market's in a decline? Maybe. Is it because we're in football season? So people are watching college and, pro football? Maybe. Is it a combination of all those things? Maybe. But I also think that we're continuing to evolve in how we sell cards. I mean, there was a time where, most towns had a shop or two, a card shop or two, and you went to a card show. That was it. eBay was a major game changer, right? Because anybody is now able to be the dealer. It's a major game changer. And then there's social media where you can join different groups, like a Facebook group or a Discord group or a different forum where you can find like-minded collectors and you can, sell things to each other and trade and stuff. And all of that is great. But there are other things too, like Golden Auctions has, been picking up, and PWCC has been picking up. And what I really think is coming as the market has dropped and as the economy is slowed is there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be looking to kind of move on from their cards. And I'm probably getting a little long with this answer, but it's like during COVID, nobody was going outside doing things, right? So everybody bought a Peloton. Everybody bought a road bicycle or a mountain bike, right? People were buying like exercise things that you could do that weren't with other people. Golf got big, right? Because you could do golf outside. So people were buying golf clubs and golf courses were packed, and you'd go into bike shops and there were no bikes for sale. And now you go on Craigslist and you could get a pretty nice bike for pretty cheap. And you can pick up a used Peloton for pretty cheap. And there are a lot of golf clubs that are lightly used that suddenly people are starting to get rid of. And so if the market continues to dip and the economy continues to slow, more and more people are going to be trying to dump stuff. And a lot of people are going to be doing that on eBay. But the other one that I have quietly gotten kind of addicted to is Whatnot. If you've not used Whatnot, it is addictive. It is very, very entertaining. And so, and I'll get into this next week in my video, but what really has happened is anybody can be a dealer, anybody can do a live auction, and you can just sit and watch the live auction. It's like the last 30 seconds of an eBay auction. Sometimes I'll go, ooh, I wonder what this is going to go for. And at the end, you just see the price go, do, 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 and you're like, whoa. It's like that, only it's live and the card is in front of you and you could bid if you want. And I really like Whatnot. I like it. And I'm going to talk about this next week. Whatnot had reached out to me like 6 months ago and said, hey, let's do a partnership. I'm like, I've never even used you guys. I'm not going to promote anything that I don't use and I don't like and I don't recommend. But what happened was when they did that, I'm like, I want to check this out. So I downloaded the app and I just started watching. So I'd be sitting there on the couch when I had nothing going on, and I would just open up Whatnot and I'd start scrolling. And I started watching it more and more and more. And you're going, Greg, how did you get to Whatnot from this answer? I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure how I got here. But the point is this. You can be a dealer via eBay or Golden or PWCC or Whatnot. So the overhead costs of those is like zero. Like there's no cost to list a card on eBay. If you sell it, you pay a fee, but if you don't sell it, you don't pay anything. And the same thing with Whatnot. It's free, but if you sell something, then you pay a little fee. And the Whatnot fee is less than the eBay fee. And And so what happens is, I think we find ourselves in a situation where we're like, well, do I want to set up a table at a show where I might have to pay $200 for the table, get a couple of tables on $400? I have to sell $400 worth of cards just to pay for my tables, or I could just post stuff on eBay and whatnot. That's my point. I've got a bigger video coming on that kind of alternative way to sell. And I do have a promo link on Whatnot. Now, if that's not your thing, no problem. But I can tell you, if you try it, you're gonna like it. And my promo code down below in the video description, and I'll even put it in the pinned comments below. It gives you $15 free on Whatnot. $15 free. And all you have to do is click on the link. It tells you how to, it'll pull up to load the app onto your phone. You load the app, you put in your phone number and your address so they know where to mail stuff. You put in your debit card information, and then you can spend $15 and get $15 worth of stuff for free. And check that out. But again, more on that soon, but not right now. But there's a lot of ways to sell with zero overhead. So part of me is like, yeah, I want to do a card show, but do I want to do a card show and pay overhead when I could just sell with no overhead? So we're thinking about it. My dad and I are seriously thinking about it, but we haven't done it yet. And that was a really long answer to a really simple question, but that's where my mind goes sometimes, sorry. Let's take a look at our third question.
Do you feel like there are two different hobbies nowadays, modern and vintage? I find myself watching a few of these modern card channels and get the impression these investors don't even watch the sports of the cards they make content about.
Oh, man. Yes, it does feel like two different hobbies. It feels like modern is one thing and vintage is another thing. But I think it's more than that. I think that there are some vintage collectors that like modern cards and collect modern cards, but they are collectors. They're not flippers. They're not investors. I do think there's a distinction. I do think that there are some modern collectors who are truly collectors. The problem is we go on things like, YouTube, and we see people just buy a card and it's immediately sold. They'll buy it, they'll sell it. I mean, I watched a YouTube video last night on a dealer at a show. He bought a $3,500 lot, and he bought it at like 75% of value. And he texted a bunch of other dealers that were at the show and said, I have a bunch of stuff for sale. I'm selling it all at 85% of value. And they all came over and they bought a bunch of stuff that he had just bought, and he made 10%. And he has absolutely no connection to the cards. That's not a collector. So when we watch that, don't think, oh, these people aren't collectors. See, here's what I really think it is. What I really think it is it's not, we have modern people who are flippers and we have vintage people who are collectors. I don't think it's that. I think we have some vintage people who are flippers. I think we have some modern people who are collectors. I think there are some of each. When you see the person who is flipping cards, they are not sports card people. See, sports cards are just the medium that they're flipping. One of the most recognizable and well-known modern sports card YouTubers for a long time was buying and selling shoes. See, shoes are highly collectible by young kids. I don't get it, but they like it, so cool. He was big in flipping shoes. Vintage Jordans, vintage, Allen Iversons, whatever they are. I don't know anything about shoes, but I know that he did that, and then that market kind of got soft, and so he went to cards. See, cards are the medium for their flipping. Now, I think it's better, and I'm not saying anybody is a drug dealer. Please hear me when I say that. I'm not calling anyone a drug dealer, but it's the same thing as a drug dealer. A drug dealer is just trying to buy a drug here and sell it for a little bit more and making a little bit of a margin. And most drug dealers don't even do drugs. They just sell drugs. So whether it's sneakers that you're buying and selling, or sports cards that you're buying and selling, or whatever else is out there that people buy and sell, to each other for cash, those people are not collectors. They can call themselves collectors. They can act like they're collectors. Like, oh, I'm a Sam Howell fan. I'm a T-Law fan. No, they're just trying to be able to identify as being knowledgeable and involved in the hobby. But in reality, what they're doing is they're trying to make thin margins on big volume. If they make 5% margin in a day, but they do $10,000 worth of deals, they made $500 that day. That's pretty good. So I think it's not modern versus vintage. I think it's flippers versus collectors. And I think that flippers tend to be gravitating towards modern because that's where the market is for the flipping. But it's just like day trading. Buy here, sell here. Buy 10,000 shares at 2 cents here. Sell 10,000 shares at 3 cents here. Made a huge profit. It's cryptocurrency. It's day trading of, small stocks, penny stocks. It's cards, it's sneakers, it's whatever it is. But those aren't collectors. Those aren't really people in the community that are here for cards. They just chose this medium to be buying and selling. So it does feel like it's two different industries, but I think it's more two different groups of people with different intentions. I love sports cards. I love them. And I collect them. And sometimes I sell them. Other people are just using sports cards to try to do high volume, low margin to make a little bit on each deal. And if you do that enough, you make quite a bit of money.
What are your top 5 favorite personal cards? Vintage baseball cards. Elaborate your reasons if you can.
Okay, this is a good question. This question's been asked me a few times, but the thing about a question like this is it's like, well, when? Right now or a week ago or a week from now? See, my opinions are constantly changing. It's like, my favorite football team, that has never changed in my whole life. But something like what's your favorite card, that changes all the time. So what I think that you're asking specifically, is for my favorite 5 vintage cards from my collection, I think. But I'm not positive. You might be asking me just in general. If you're asking me in general, let me go ahead and take you through my 5 in general right now vintage cards that I would most want to, acquire, right? I love the 1956 Mickey Mantle card. The 1956 Topps Mickey Mantle is, to me, his best looking card. I love the action shot in the background, and I love the portrait shot in the foreground. I think it is a beautiful card. I know my dad loves that card. I think my dad's gonna end up buying one of those soon. And then whenever I wanna look at one, I'll go over to his house and look at it. But I love that card. Another card that I love right now in my top 5 vintage cards, and this is really hard. I'm leaving out some cards that I just absolutely love. Again, whenever you have a list, things are left off. It's like when the NCAA tournament bracket comes out, you go, oh my gosh, this team and this team got left off. How do you do that? The discussion is more about who was left off than who was put on, right? The 48 Bowman Stan Musial, I love. Now, Musial doesn't have a ton of cards. He didn't have a Topps card until his 58 Topps All-Star. He had some Bowman cards early in his career. But the thing I really like about the 48 Bowman Stan Musial is that he looks so young. I really, really like that card, and right now that's really high on my list. The third one I would put on my list of favorite cards, not in my collection, just in general. I love the T206 portrait cards, and the Walter Johnson card just speaks to me. I love his youth in the portrait. I love the fact that he's arguably the best pitcher of all time. I love the yellow background. I love the formal, outfit that the guys have on in those portrait pictures. So that is one of the 5 that I would pick. And again, how do you narrow it down? I've mentioned this card for a while, and this is a fairly affordable card. The 53 Bowman Color Warren Spahn. Man, that is a beautiful picture. It is a beautiful picture. And my favorite part, and the patch on his arm is very cool, but my favorite part is how old his glove looks. His glove looks just like, it so predates the gloves that we see today, and it's just so evident in that picture. But it's Warren Spahn, who I really like, who I really think is undervalued, who I appreciate his military service. There's so much I like about Warren Spahn. I love that card. The last card at the moment, and again, there's some I'm leaving off, I can't believe I'm leaving off, is the 55 Topps Sandy Koufax. I mean, again, another one of, and it's interesting that I picked 3 pitchers, but another one of the best all-time pitchers, arguably the best left-handed pitcher of all time. I think the picture, I feel like the portrait on this is beautiful. And again, I like the yellow background. I like the color, the dark blue that he has on up against the yellow. It just pops. I love that card. So out of all cards, as of today's date, that's my pick. But I think you're asking about the top 5 from my collection. So what I want to do is I want to stop and turn the camera around, and I will take you through currently where I'm at with my 5 favorite cards that are in my collection, that are vintage cards, that are in my collection. Let's take a look at those.
All right, so here we will take a look at the first one. I just told you I love the T206 cards. I love the portrait T206 cards. And the very first portrait T206 card that I got was this wee Willie Keeler. Now, when I was growing up, there was a pretty long hit streak going on by Jerome Walton of the Cubs. And not long after that, I remember watching the Ken Burns baseball documentary, and they talked all about the hit streak for Joe DiMaggio and how he broke wee Willie Keeler. So that card is super special to me. Now, I know you said baseball cards, but I had to cheat. This card is from my childhood collection. This is Larry Bird's first single card. When I bought this card, I remember thinking it was a perfect 10. PSA broke my heart a few years ago when I sent it in and they gave it an 8. How it's not a 10, I have no idea. But I just love this card. I was a Larry Bird fan growing up. Love watching him play. Love hearing the stories about Larry Bird talking trash. That is a super special card for me. And is it even vintage? That's debatable too. When I was in 6th grade, I've mentioned this, I met Ted Williams at a card show. I got his autograph on a ball. I read a biography about Ted Williams and have been a huge fan ever since. And anytime there is a baseball hero who was also an American military hero, I have a soft spot for them. And this is my favorite Ted Williams card. I think it is beautiful. Picked this card up about 9 months ago at a show. It's a PSA 3.5, but as far as I'm concerned, it's an 8. It is gorgeous. So that card is very special to me. Now, I cheated again. I had to throw one football card in. I've mentioned before, when I was in elementary school, I watched Brian's Song, the movie about Brian Piccolo and Gale Sayers. Have been a huge fan of Gale Sayers ever since. I love Gale Sayers. I love that friendship those two had. And when you watch highlights of Gale Sayers, there was nobody that ran like Gale Sayers. Picking up his rookie card. Now, this is just a 5. It's got a rough cut on the right, but I love it. And to me, it's absolutely perfect. And when you say what's your top 5 favorite cards, I can't not have a Christy Mathewson T206 card included. He is an inaugural Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer. Keep in mind that year, Cy Young and a couple other really good players did not make the first inaugural Hall of Fame list, but Christy Mathewson did. Those are my 5 at the moment. How do you feel about vintage hockey cards selling for so cheap?
Okay. I have had a few questions recently about hockey cards, specifically vintage hockey cards. And there are people that have been like, why aren't you talking about vintage hockey cards? Why aren't you talking about vintage hockey cards? And I'm like, well, for one, I don't really know a lot about vintage hockey cards. I have a handful of Wayne Gretzky cards. I have 1 or 2 Mario Lemieux cards, not the big ones. I like hockey. Playoff hockey is a lot of fun to watch. I really like hockey. It has a lot of similarities to soccer, which I'm a huge soccer fan, as far as the way the game is played and the positioning and the movement and you know, the low scoring and all that kind of stuff. I like hockey. I really do. I think some people struggle with understanding, you know, crossing the 2 lines, going into the zone before the puck. I think there are some people who struggle with understanding it just because a lot of us didn't grow up playing it. See, in the United States, like, pretty much people played high school football or they went to the high school football games, so they kind of understand football. Plus, it's been on, you know, network TV for most of our lives. Baseball, most of us played it. A lot of American kids played it, and it's on TV all the time. I mean, for years, all the Cubs games and all the Braves games were on TV like every day. So you could watch it, and then you'd learn about it and you'd understand it. Basketball is a pretty simple game to understand. You know, get that ball into that round hoop and make it go down it. I mean, it's pretty easy to understand. Now, obviously, there are strategies and movements and things, but it's easy to kind of get the concept. But hockey is a little bit more challenging for people to understand. So I think that's one of the reasons. But whenever we talk about values, and specifically people have been like, why do you think hockey cards are not worth more than they are? They should be worth way more. Why aren't they worth more? Well, again, I think everything goes to supply and demand. And when you look at that supply and demand and where those two things meet, the supply of hockey cards is pretty low. I mean, compared to baseball cards, it is like really low. Look at the pop report of, you know, a Gordie Howe rookie card or a, you know, I'm just using a bigger name, but a lot of Hall of Fame hockey players, you look at the pop report of their cards, their rookie cards, and it's really low. So if the price is going to be low and the supply is low, that means the demand is low. So why don't people want hockey cards? That's the reason prices are low, because the supply is low. No doubt about it, the supply is low. And the price is low. No doubt about it, the price is low. So in order for the value for the price to be low, that must mean the demand is really low. So the first guess as to why the demand is low is because people don't watch a lot of it. It's not usually on, a lot of it's not on network TV, it might be on cable TV. A lot of people didn't grow up playing it in the United States, which is the biggest sports card collecting, group. There are people worldwide, obviously, but the biggest group of sports card collectors is in the United States, and a lot of those people didn't grow up playing hockey, and so they don't really understand it. It's not on network TV, so they don't watch. So there's not a demand because they don't know the players. That's part of my guess. But a couple of things are about to happen with hockey. Like, hockey is on the verge of two major things that I think are going to get a lot of national attention. First, one of the biggest prospects ever is currently just entering the league, right? Connor Bedard is like a major prospect. And early in his career, it's just been a few games, he has done pretty well. I mean, for a guy who's that young to come in and already scoring, getting points is impressive. And a lot of people think he is the real deal. So that, I think, is going to get some attention for hockey. Another thing that's going to happen is even people that don't know hockey, they know Wayne Gretzky, right? They all know Wayne Gretzky. Oh, he's the guy that scored all the points. He had all the assists, best passer, best scorer ever, best hockey player. That's what everybody thinks who's not even a hockey person. Well, quietly, if you're not a hockey connoisseur, Alex Ovechkin is rapidly approaching the all-time goal scoring mark. See, everybody thought Gretzky's points total, assist total, and goal total would never be touched. And now Alex Ovechkin is on pace to do it. So, I mean, barring a major injury, barring something significant happening to Ovechkin, he's going to break Gretzky's goal scoring record. And as he gets closer and closer and closer, I mean, this is this is Sosa and McGuire chasing Maris's single season record. This is Hank Aaron catching Babe Ruth on the all-time home run record. I mean, this is a major deal in hockey. And again, barring something crazy, it's going to happen. So you have a major prospect who's entering the league. You have one of the most important records ever by the most well-known hockey player ever is about to be broken in the not too distant future. I think a lot of attention is going to come in on hockey. Not to mention there are, Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby are two of the all-time greats and are, finishing up their careers, and that will get some attention. But the amount of attention that is about, I think, to come down on hockey could, I am not giving investment advice right now, but it could make hockey a little bit more noted and mainstreamed from the casual fan if they go, wait, Wayne Gretzky's record's going to be broken? Wait, this new guy is one of the all-time greats? I'm not saying that he is. I'm just saying some people speculate that he will be. If it gets a ton of attention all of a sudden, and the fan base grows a little, because the supply is so low of some of the all-time greats. And by the way, when Ovechkin is getting closer, they're not going to just be talking about Gretzky. They're going to be talking about Gretzky, and they're going to be talking about all the other all-time greats, right? The Holes and the Gordie Howes and the, again, I'm not going to act like I know a lot about hockey because I don't. What I know about hockey cards is there's a low supply and a fairly low demand for some reason. And these two major attention things are about to hit hockey simultaneously, which could result in an increased attention to hockey and interest in hockey and possibly demand in hockey. And so I could see, and I've heard other people talk about, they think there could be a little bump in the hockey card market soon. Will there be? I have no idea. I don't know enough about hockey to say. I'm not an influencer. I am just a dude with an opinion. And what will happen to hockey cards? I haven't got the slightest. Am I going out and buying any additional hockey cards thinking that they're going to go up? No. I'm not buying any extra hockey cards. I'll keep saying it. Collect what you like. Hockey cards aren't really my thing. I think they're cool, but they're not my thing. I like pirate cards. I collect Allen and Ginter pirate cards from the late 1800s. And people think I'm insane for that, but it's what I like. I like them. So I'm going to keep collecting them. And if you like hockey cards, collect hockey cards, even if you don't think that other people like hockey cards. Buy what you like. That's my take on hockey cards. The only reason the price could be low with a low supply is that there's a low demand. And could Connor Bedard and Alex Ovechkin draw enough attention to hockey to create a little bit of a boost in hockey interest, in hockey card demand, on people learning about the history of hockey? That is very possible. I'm not a speculator. I'm a collector. So I'm not going to be participating, but I know there are some people already thinking that's going to happen, and that is happening soon, and are going to play that role. But I'm not, that's not what I'm going to be doing. That's my take. So, 5 great questions, right? 5 fantastic questions. If you have a question down below in the comments, please type out your question. Just simply ask your question in the comments. Just type it in the question. And if you're interested in Whatnot, I'm warning you, it is highly addictive. And they came to me 9 months ago and I said, I'm not partnering with anybody for something I don't know anything about and I've not experienced. But I really do like Whatnot, and I go on there pretty much every day for at least a few minutes. And if you're interested, down below, you can get $15 free on Whatnot by using my link. Most other people who have a Whatnot link, they get $10. For whatever reason, they decided to make mine worth $15. They give me a little kickback if you decide to use my link. So please use my link. I'd love to get a little kickback. But if you're not interested in Whatnot, don't do it. But if you are interested in Whatnot, I think you're going to like it. And I'm going to talk more about this next week and kind of really unveil what Whatnot is going to be doing in the card collecting community. And I'll just show you a little bit more about it. So, questions down below.